Florence, and I'm the team leader for Team 1. And our project is over Manly Gardens Park and the quadruple net value of the park. So I'll introduce you to my team. I have Tyler Retzloff that's involved with the environmental, Tyler Henschel that's over the economics, Xavier 2 over the sensory, and then Hunter Schwartz with the social and cultural aspects.
The project provided increased detention capacity for the drainage characteristics of the existing detention basin. It improved water quality of the stormwater runoff as it went through the basins. We designed ADA compliant sidewalks and pathways as well as meeting areas throughout the project where all of the residents could congregate and enjoy the recreation.
All right. Well, I'm going to start off with the economic side of things. And I want to start off by talking about the impact, the three major floods that there have been in the last 4 years. You have the Memorial Day flooding, Tax Day flooding, and the Harvey devastating flood. And I want to talk about how the neighborhoods surrounding Madeline Park have actually, above all odds, it never got any flooding and has actually increased house value over time. So these are the three neighborhoods. You have Madeline Park, Madeline Village, and Grants Terrace here. And then in 2017, we actually see the house value $168,000, $236,000, and $200,000. These are substantially pretty hefty price tags for these housing. So, as I was just saying, we've had the three major floods, and these are actually the 500-year floods. And the people that don't know what a 500-year flood is, it is set by the government to say that this is a certain area that we expect there to be a major flood every 500 years. So, as you can tell, having three floods in the 3-year span and the 500-year floodplain is not really good for the area, and you would expect the house prices to drop. So actually what we found was in those years of the flooding, it actually increased right here 31%, 38%, and 58% in respective to Madeline Park, Village, and Grants Terrace over the years. So, the lasting impact of this place, people see how this is going to be the future, and obviously with global warming, keep moving forward, there's going to be a lot of flooding, and so people want to see that these houses won't be flooding, and so that's why you have this huge increase in value and pricing.
All right, guys. Paul's going to talk about the social and cultural impacts. These are going to be the 4 topics that we go over: public involvement, safety and security, public health, impacts, and connectivity. All right, so the first one is going to be public involvement. So they have all kinds of events out here. We were able to go to Night Out, National Night Out, which was a lot of fun. We weren't able to go. And they also have a biking event. And what these do is they help promote, healthy behavior, as well as get people into the park and kind of connect with each other. It's also, we thought it was really nice that the fire and sheriff departments were able to come out and show their support. As you saw in the video, there was police, obviously the fire departments here, and then they also landed the helicopter on the field, which is really cool and just kind of shows their presence in the area. And the park is used by hundreds of guests every year. There's about 500 plus homes just in the general area, and so they're able to see a huge amount of people coming to the park every year. So the next section is safety and security, and so there's not really any lighting in the park, which we kind of wished that there would be, but the hours of the park are dawn to dusk, so there's kind of a reason for that. The main security that the park has is an active security. Since there's so many people that use the park, they're kind of the eyes and ears and keep watch for anything that happens there, able to report it. So there isn't really much security staff on site all the time. The next section is public health impacts. So there's just under 2 miles of walking, running, and biking trails. Like I said before, they really encourage people to come out and use the park. It's fairly accessible to everybody, being ADA compliant. They really want everybody to kind of come out and use it and be healthy and just help everybody out. It's also chemical free, which helps out people with allergies or who are that have chemical sensitivities, to where they're able to enjoy the park just as much as everybody else. They don't have to worry about chemicals messing up their day. And then also just being around the plants and everything helps kind of mentally, and as well as decreases the amount of carbon dioxide in the area, and decreases the heat island effect of the city. So the next one is going to be connectivity. Like I said before, there's 500 plus houses, just in the area. The park's in a pretty central place, so everybody's able to walk to the park. The parking for the park is actually either on the street or in walking distance. So obviously it's generally for people to use that are in the area already. Although there is a bus route 44, but the nearest stop is about half a mile walk. So if you really want to use it, you could, but you got to walk to get to the park. And one thing that we thought was really cool is people are really starting to open up more to the park. I know Dr. Booth, or Professor Booth in the class had talked about, when it was just a field, people were, building up walls. And once they started to build the park, people were opening it up. In a picture we showed earlier, it actually shows a guy's backyard, his fence for his backyard, and there's a door and like 2 swinging windows on the fence. So obviously people are, really trying to open it up and embracing the park.
So next I will talk about the environmental aspect of Mandolin Gardens Park. So some subtopics: the water management, energy and conservation, wildlife impacts, and the environment-focused development. So first off, water management. When we first toured the park, I remember Mary Tully talking about how Houston's compared to a plate. So when it rains, the water kind of just sits in the city and has nowhere to go. And so I think this park is kind of important in the sense that Houstonians have now seen what pocket parks have like the capability of doing as far as retaining water and using it in an aesthetically pleasing way. So the overall design of the park was kind of centered around managing stormwater and runoff efficiently while still being functional for people to use. So as it's been mentioned before, this is a snake-filled detention pond, and they somehow found a way to make it actually better than it was before in terms of retaining water and making it functional. So energy and conservation, as was highlighted before, potable water is more expensive and there's less of it now. And so this park found a way to use only reclaimed water and non-potable water. Traditionally, parks don't really take into account, I guess, water efficiency. And so with Mary Tully at the head of this project and her being from the Houston area, she really did take into account what Houstonians needed and the potable water conservation aspect of it. The wildlife impact, another thing Mary Tully talked about was how she utilized Mexican sycamores and other local native plants that do use less water than, I guess, invasive species. She used meadow grasses instead of Bermuda or St. Augustine, which typically require a lot more watering and upkeep. And so kind of the dedication to native vegetation enhanced the overall natural environment. And so kind of the overall environmental focused development. So when we toured the park, it was very apparent that she kind of took into account all aspects of what this area needed and how to avoid future conflicts with natural disasters and just what the local inhabitants needed.
Thank you. So now I'm going to present the sensory. So from the previous slides, we have seen that there's a synergy between the 4 key elements, the architectural elements and the transportation systems. So what I'm going to do is more going into detail by analysis on the sensory part. Thank you. So we can part every element of the park into the 5 senses, but I'm going more into detail these senses. So the visual, TLA is the only one that is awarded artist design that has designed the park. So there are 3 iconic elements that I wanted to go deeper: the water feature, the course, and the reflective domes. Course are inspirational, educational. They trigger our curiosities, and we want to know where does it come from. So this is why I put 14 out of the 18 quotes here. It is also healthy because for all people, you can help for Alzheimer's or anything. For the water features, there are 3 other things. We are iconic elements. The second one is because there's 2 fountains on the center where the summit line, and the third one right next to the Grand Road is kind of blocking the sound from the outside. And also the reflective dome, depending on the age again, we have a range from 70 to 120 degrees. And when you're looking at the reflective domes, you reflect everything around you, which is 360 degrees. As for the smells, smells, sounds, and taste, all the communities respect each other. So they respect the smell with a lot of trash bins that have been disposed in the park. And for the sounds, everyone can sit there. Everyone in the community respect each other into the sounds. They respect the silence, so we can all immerse ourselves into the nature. As for the touch, there's some pathway. Where we can touch the water. There's some stone where William stood. Here, William. And we have different textured pavements such as rock, steel, cement, or grass. So this is a kind of interactivity between the park and us. So as for the taste, I asked the directors of the park, and he said that the food vendors, they are only present during events, but they respect the community, just like before what I talked. They don't want to bring some smells and bad smells or anything, so it's pretty good. So all the elements I have summed up here, from different pavement to wildlife creature. We can eat it, but there's also the reflecting dome, where you can see it, smell it, and touch it. Smell the smell. Yeah, and that's all.
So we just want to leave it all with a couple of recommendations that we thought that could help the park. Like Hunter had touched on, the park does not have any lighting throughout it, but also on the park rules, it does say that it's from dawn to dusk. We still think that it could be used for people that are running it late at night and things like that, just to light the pathways or something like that, just to make it safer for the community. Another thing is community events. Hunter and I had the opportunity to go to the community night out, and we thought that it was a really cool event that brought a lot of people together. And vendors were there, everybody was having fun, a lot of music, a lot of cool stuff. And we just feel like there's not quite enough, and there could bring more together, and different things like scavenger hunts, using the actual landscape and the habitat, like you go and look for different plants or different things to snap pictures of or whatever. Maybe an Easter egg hunt, or even a movie night out in the park, something like that, just to get the community together more often and to use that park more efficiently. We also noticed that there was mainly just trash cans. We'd like to install some more recycling bins as well, just to keep it green, keep it consistent with the idea. Also touched on with Hunter, greater accessibility. If we could have bus stops and things like that, you could be bringing in a broader crowd, I guess, to the park and get more exposure to it. And also parking spots. And that can be a double-edged sword, because you don't want to have a whole bunch of people coming to the park and put in a 50-spot parking lot, but at the same time, it would decrease the amount of traffic that's on the roads and in front of the houses and things like that. And the last thing we thought of was creating signage. So that actually is the educational value to the park, and so natural beauty in the habitat. It would just be able to teach more people about the different landscape and things that are in the park. And so in conclusion, by our team using the quadruple net value, it was determined that the park, through the social, cultural, economic, environmental, and sensory aspects, that Mandolin Gardens Park is an iconic. It's iconic because it functions as a retention pond as well as a beautiful park that allows for people to come and see. And so it has a function, but it also has an elegant aspect to it. And we just believe that it's a big attraction, and it's going to continue to bring people to the park, and hopefully new residents as it continues to grow. Thank you all.